So it's us between you and lunch. So let's make this as interactive as we possibly can. So as Tom just said, I'm Ritu. We run an early stage fund. We do a lot of ag and food investments. Not enough in the biotech space is what I feel, but one of the things that I'm most excited about, because fundamentally, we have to change the fundamentals to be addressing some of the sort of existential challenges that we sit on of food security and also climate change affecting food security. So I have with me three folks who know a lot more about this, and hopefully we can unpack some of this as we go through. We'll take some questions at the end, so please keep them ready for us. And let's walk through this and sort of see what's happening in Asia. And we're going to be specifically focused on biotech in Asia and what it can potentially do here, right? So I'm going to kick off with you, Gengchen. What would be really good if you could just set the stage a little bit on some of the innovation. I think the previous panel has been talking a little bit about it, but just as we go into this space, if you could set the tone for us from the technology aspects, what are some of these very critical technology changes, and why is it an exciting moment for biotech to be addressing food security?
Sure. Thanks.
And if each one of you would just give a small introduction on yourselves before you kick off on the question, so just the audience know, that would be great. Okay.
Thanks. Now, this is in the biotechnology in last, I think, 30 years, really make a significant progress, especially, the GMO products. Right now, the gene editing, the new technology come out. GMO technology is a approved technology in last 20 years, at least for corn, soybean, cotton, especially in Asia. I think like India and China is why, for cotton is used for many years. Yep. But for food, China is getting approved for corn very soon. And it's going to prove something. And especially, I think the impact for the GMO, one good example is the soybean. Normally, like 30 years ago, China is exporting soybean. And Latin America is basically the importing soybean. Right now, I think South America become the major soybean exporter, and China become the biggest soybean importer. Over 90% of the soybean consumers in China is imported from North America or South America. I think this is how the food security, how the productivity and the cost this GMO bring to us. But look, for the future, I think the last 30 years, if you look at the trees, GMO are present, basically it's insect resistance, herbicide tolerance, and maybe drought tolerance was not addressed. So they have some limitation there. Number one is they have very costly, Normally, one tree get approved from research to market is over much more than $100 million US, and more than 10 years research and testing process. That's it's not easy for small or even middle-sized company to work on this. Number two is they have limited, trees to be used in the product. I said before, herbicide tolerance and the insect resistance is only two trees was played a significant role in last 30 years. In you look in going through 30 years, millions, billions of dollars investment already. So these two trees was important. Others was have limited effect. I think number three is the acceptance by the public. The public still, there's some argument. Someone like it, someone don't like. We don't say it was wrong or not, but still there's issue there. Coming up, I think over the next few years or next maybe 10, 20 years, I think a major thing I will look at is gene editing.
Yeah.
This was much, more, I will look more promising technology in increase the productivity and for agriculture and crops. Gene editing is a new method. I think the advantage is, number one, is cost much less than GMO. And anyone, small company or big company, they can work on that. Number two is timing can be also save a lot of time compared to GMO. Number three is they have not much more varieties, much more trees to work on that. Since the genes already in corn or soybean inside, you can editing almost any genes there to modify that. And through this one, I always believe, in the future, maybe the gene editing will become a very common technology used by the breeders. And that's the thing I think they can be much more trees you can work on that. It's not like one or two things. Probably I will just give a little bit, brief, introduction about my company, what we are doing in this area. And origin technology was Agritech was established about 20 years ago. Then we have working on the GMO in 2003. It was 20 years. But we have first, GMO trace affected corn was approved in 2009. But unfortunately, the China was not in the, commercialization for the last 20 years. So we spent much money on that. But in 2016, we got involved in the gene editing, to start gene editing method. And in 2021, actually 2 years ago, we think we break through the technology in terms, in corn. We have a much faster, efficient way to work on that. And for example, if you either GMO or traditional breeding or anyone, you want to change one trace from the edited trace to commercial hybrids, you need 4 to 5 years, 8 to 10 generations by crossing. But our method was come out is for any trace, we can easily convert to a commercial hybrids, inbreds, without a back crossing process. Actually, we just announced it last night. So it's pretty new. In last 2 years, since this one, we have built up the system with 7 or 9 traits or trait combination. For example, plant height, plant maturity, some disease resistance, plant type. In a system with this kind of 8 or 9 traits or traits combination, we can converting any other public inbreds into the, in 1 year for anyone. This one was the method approved. In last 2 years, we have set up a system. We will still continue to build up what I call gene editing pool to convert as many traits as possible to build up a system. Number two is on the product side. With gene editing, we have approved, last year, 2 years ago, on the nitrogen efficiency. Nitrogen efficiency is from the, also it's today as the first going public. And we have been working nitrogen efficiency through GMO also for the last 20 years. But we tried the GMO, we tried the traditional method, but finally we used gene editing. Edited one gene have a significant effect to improve the yield. Right. I can see the picture, you can show one picture there.
I don't know whether we have a presentation thing here, but maybe we see if they can do this and I come back to that. Is that please?
That one.
So maybe, sorry, were you going to add something? Oh, they have that back.
Oh, okay. They have here. Okay. So if this is, for corn breeders, they will know the B73 is commonly used inbreds. In last, 40 years, either B73 or B73 modified. And it's very good one. Then use gene editing, we just changed one gene to improve the nitrogen efficiency. As is on the same field, side by side, this year was harvested basically one month ago. This were fresh, yeah.
So the picture is worth more than 1,000 words, right? The difference between the right and the left is to work.
So this is the different growing, that's just two exactly same inbred, growing the same field in the different stages. You can see the whole picture. This is the change of the concept. Once practically you increase efficiency, you reduce the fertilizer use, and increase yield. That's, very ideal situation. Number two is a scientific view, for the concept is we normally believe yield is affected by many genes. You just can't change one gene to achieve this effect. But that's including me about 2 years ago, same idea. So, but I think I also changed my concept there. Just use gene editing. You can significantly increase yield through the change one major gene. Okay. I think that I will probably...
That's super impressive, right? Yeah. So I think the message there is that, what we're talking about here is gene editing.
Yeah.
And what gene editing can potentially do here of both reducing cost, time, and I'd also say the consumer acceptance piece, right? Because you're playing around with, you're not introducing a foreign gene in here, right?
Exactly.
You're just in. And I'll just add that I think also what's really exciting for me is that, with the gene editing, there's a computational advances that have happened that are allowing this to accelerate this with, whatever AI learnings, et cetera, on top of this to be able to come up with the main gene or the combination of genes that need to be edited. So I think we're sitting at an exciting time. And I think, in the last Green Revolution, it was seeds that sort of addressed this question of food security and starvation. But Bhupen, I'm going to come to you. So, everybody says Asia is a very complex place, right? So we're talking about a scientific advance here, and it was in the last Green Revolution, this scientific advance helped many countries, not just one, right? How do you see, technologies like gene editing, et cetera, scale across Asia, complex Asia, I should say? And is there, will we see the fruits of gene editing through Asia? What's your view on Asia, basically?
Good morning, and thank you so much for this opportunity. Am I audible? Response will be good. Thank you so much. So that we know we are talking to a vibrant audience here. I think the role of biotech in food in Asia is a subject, and Ritu is asking me what kind of scale we can look at in Asia for this technology. To me, in one word, immense. If you really scan global scene of biotech in agriculture or food industry, there are 4 crops, let's say, covering more than 90% of the areas globally. Cotton, proven beyond doubt in many countries around the world, including Asia, China, India, the classical case. The corn, entire Americas are full of GM corn. In Asia, 2 countries have taken the lead in corn in biotech commercialization. Philippines was first one, and second is Vietnam. I understand China is now at the threshold now, as from my fellow panelists.
Is in the process, yeah.
Correct. So commercialization is likely to happen now, anytime.
Next year.
Next year.
Next year.
So there's a massive development from that perspective, and remaining countries like Indonesia and India are debating. That is where the scene is in terms of corn. Third important crop is canola. Let's say my own company, Advanta, is very active in canola biotech in Australia. Canola is not a major crop in our part of the world, Asia, but cuisine, like a mustard in India, which is about 6 to 7 million hectare, is a massive area there. Some work is going on in research in biotech in that part of it. And last crop is soybean. America is full of GM soybean, we know it. So there are 4 crops, which are 90% of the area is covered. So that is just to scan the global part of it. Coming to Asia part, I think we know Asia is home to, out of 8 billion people, nearly 3.5 billion plus are in Asia. By 2050, a billion will be added, in that nearly half will be in this part of the world. So demand part is going to be very high. The current, the food system, agriculture system is definitely plus minus net is self-supportive, but going forward projections are not really very positive in terms of demand-supply gap is going to expand. In that scenario, I think biotech in Asia can play a massive role. When I say biotech, which includes gene editing also, which is a latest technology, there's a lot of promise there. Now, for scaling, there are three levers we must look at it. What are the factors we can help in scaling this technology, adoption of the technology? First and foremost is consumer, right? Are the consumer in Asia, in various countries, are receptive to this technology? Is the question mark. And this requires a massive amount of education from the government, from the industry, and from the advocacy groups. I think that is a work in progress. I think efforts are not enough, in my opinion, in that area. And therefore, a lot of misunderstanding you see in the press, popular press, you realize that a lot of misunderstanding keep coming up. That is an area I think as a key player in the society, we must play there. Wherever there are positive receptions is happening, naturally, it will have a bearing in terms of the government policies. Government in most of the countries, they respond to the people's aspiration. If people demand that, and if not demand actively, but at least they are not very negative to it. In that scenario, government are in a position to take a very positive policy decisions. Classical cases go on in China, for example. China import huge amount of soybean and other crops. So and the Chinese government is responding now. So R&D is over, that's threshold, and commercialization is happening. India also discussion is happening. Let's say India is encouraging a biotech research, but the point is last mile, the commercialization, when it comes to there, the vibrant democracy kicks in. People who know the subject, do not know the subject, they all jump into the fray, and the entire cacophony comes in there. But I think I was a couple of weeks ago, I was in Delhi, there was a IPRI organized some workshop on this area, and I see a lot of hope there. So there is a second part of it. And if these two, the stakeholders are aligned, then technology is available globally. And investment also is very, very looking forward to actually come in these areas. So technology part can be accelerated very fast. We have a scientific pool, highest number of scientific pool are in Asia today. So there's no dearth of talent in these areas. Only thing is the seed companies like us must get the equation of risk reward, and cost benefit right. I would say in GM we are still not there. But I see a lot of threshold. If that happens, then R&D will come in, dollar into R&D also will come in, and launches will happen. I see in next 1 decade, a lot of news happening in biotech in Asia.
So just if I could stay with you, Bhupen, for a minute, and we'll come back to unpack, the opportunity from an investor perspective later. But you alluded to two things. You said China, India, there is a million other, not a million, but a variety of other countries around here, right? So, I'm just reflecting back, right? We were at a crisis in the 60s or the 70s of actually feeding populations in each of these countries that drove governments to kind of adopt. Say, I don't have a choice, I have to adopt this, wheat, whatever, rice, all the varieties, etc., that helped us through that phase, right? Do you see that, are we talking about scaling this across Asia through multiple different geographies, a challenge today because we are not facing that criticality? I mean, you mentioned that we are self-sufficient at some level. We are not yet there. This is a future crisis. And that, it will take crisis mode before adoption happens, or do you think that scale can come faster? Or something else will drive the adoption across different governments?
I think coordination at an intergovernment level will work, will help a lot. Like there are trade grouping, like South Asia's grouping is there, the ASEAN region grouping is there, the BRICS are there. So, and in fact, this if you study the agenda of these groupings, this is the agenda. One of the items is food security and sustainability, for example. In that subtitle, biotech can really play a role. We are engaged with them. I think there's a possibility is there, right? Okay. Work is happening.
So coalitions of sort or partnerships of sort, intergovernment.
Absolutely.
Okay. Ines, I'm going to come to you with a, perhaps a different lens. Again, Asia is full of small farms. and smallholder farmers, right? In my opinion, I think people adopt, if you give them the benefit, they're very happy to adopt technology, right? Do you see any challenges in, this new generation of biotech seeds, et cetera, coming in, addressing smallholder farmers as a challenge, or, how do you see addressing the challenges for a smallholder farmer with the biotech coming in?
Thank you, Ritu. And just a short introduction first is it is my great pleasure to be here, and thank you for being here. And I'm coming from the International Rice Research Institute, which is a global research organization with about 600 partners across the globe, and we have like 15 offices globally, and our work is dedicated for the improving poverty and poverty alleviation. And for us, for biotech, we work in both areas, on the GM part, although more and more now on the genome editing. For GM, I think everybody knows about the golden rice, but it's not really 20 years, as the previous speaker said, because there's also technology-wise that had to be improved. But it got a commercialization approval now, and actually, public is quite positive about it, and we are now going to pyramid iron and zinc, which is a very big problem in Asia. 1 out of 2 children actually have a deficiency, micronutrient deficiency. And we would be surprised, if we look at the data, we think that the staple is actually not very dense at all on micronutrient. But in the Philippines alone, vegetables only contribute, like for iron and zinc, 5 to 15%, and rice contribute to 30%. Why? It's just because the amount of consumption. So for GM technology, we are really focused on making healthier rice, and that's why we got also a humanitarian license. We work on the freedom to operate, and that's targeted to the resourceful farmer for inbred. And we work more and more on genome editing now. And for genome editing, I think the advantage is like investment is not as big as GM, right? And also the acceptance, I think we really at this early stage of technology have to have a very good outreach communication, and we work together with the national partners. And for gene editing, for example, we also work with nitrogen use efficiency, but it's a different approach. We're more on the translocation sides, and we work on disease resistance, for example, for blasts, but we focus more on DSR, like direct seeding rice. So we have a pipeline more on the rice, which is popular on the developing countries, the tropical rice, and we co-develop it with partners. And also when it comes to the seed deployment part later, of course, if ideally it's with Advanced Research Institute, IRI, and also with the private entities. And for non-GM, this has been, for example, we work with ACI in Bangladesh, and it was like successfully breeders, and they help with the deployment side. And I think the same model can work also with gene editing. But of course, we have to work out the IP issue and the freedom to operate to ensure. That's why partnership is super important.
So let me stay on that. So are you saying, Inez, that for, essentially to get down to the last mile here for small farmers, partnerships is a critical piece of actually reaching there to get the technologies in there? Is that how I should understand that? And you did allude to it, but maybe you could walk us through like how, to scale this, right? To scale this across Asia, right? an example that you might have of a partnership that worked very well and why? And do you see how we could be scaling these partnerships? What would be the call to action on partnerships here?
Okay, I think which is important to start with, that we have like a correct product profile for the target countries, for the small, also small resource farmers. So this started with a good product profile, and then you actually have a map, right, which the disease areas, disease resistant, and this product profile for target countries. And then, of course, we look at the regulatory environment in there. For example, India is good, Kenya is good, Nigeria. I mean, more balanced, not good or bad, but it is more balanced regulation at the moment. And the partnership would be between like the national partners to get the support from the government. And then the example I gave you, for example, with the ACI, we did get initial funding from USA. But I think it's also, and then when the price is actually, when it's a good one, a good product, of course, farmer will buy it when it's give benefit for them. So I think this partnership between the national partners could be from government sides, and with the in the deployment part depends on the system on the and then our research organization with the Advanced Research Institute based on the product profile they have, and to work out the IP issues. And
yeah, let's come back to that, Ines, right? So I'm sorry, I just couldn't see the first number on this speaking time, and I thought it was 2 and it's 1. So I'm going to speed things up a little bit out here. Bhupen, I was going to, Gengchen, let me start with you, right? So we've obviously, all of you have alluded to the fact that the opportunity is immense, to borrow the word from you, Bhupen, out here, right? So do you think there's enough investment going into this?
I would say it's not enough. There's some investment, but not enough.
Yeah.
The particular reason I think is especially in biotech in China, for example, there's commercialization is coming, but it's not so
Not there
fast.
yet.
So financial investment, normally financial institute, they will look at a quarterly number, or next month you make money. But unfortunately, agriculture, biotech will take years to get. And I think that's still not enough. But especially for Asian countries.
Right.
But, yeah.
And Bhupen, just, given that you guys look globally, just could you walk us through, as an investor, the return on capital is, the capital doesn't care where it goes, right? Unfortunately, unless somebody puts another lens on it saying this is important, right? So do you see that the return on capital on investing in biotech in Asia is different from what it might be in the West? And so hence, what Gengchen is saying is that it's limited in terms of the capital flowing in here and needs another lens for it to flow?
Actually, excuse me. I think in the North America, they are, GMO and gene editing is very open. They create a market value already there. But for Asian countries, I think especially cotton in India and China, other crops are still in the slow process. Yeah. So that's, I think, the reason is commercialization process.
Bhupen, your thoughts?
I think from an investment perspective, the investment is ready to come in the sector.
Yeah.
For example, in this event, already I got a 5 request from a managing director of some of the funds already. I'm going to meet them. So there's one indication, right? Otherwise, also throughout regular things, they approach us, talk to us. What I could realize that, let's say, if I'm having a capital I'm supposed to manage, what I'm looking forward to, obvious thing is ROI. Yeah. But then ROI, which is a risk adjusted. Yeah. So in terms of risk profile for GM in America is different, in Asia is different. For Asia, food and the agriculture is not only mere commercial activity, it is a way of living in many parts of the world, also cultural sensitivity, political sensitivity. So all this brings to the uncertainty in regulatory fund. So adjusted reward to the biotech investment by the investors is still not a very strong case I would say that. Having said that, good thing is, investment companies are also now coming out because of the sustainability goal commitment, SDG commitment. They are now clearly defining a part of their the money bag to be invested in an impact fund. Green tech fund, impact fund. There they are having this, the metrics, they are changing it besides ROI.
Right.
I think in those areas, there is a huge opportunity for us. We are negotiating, let's say, a couple of investors right now on the subject.
So essentially, I mean, what I'm hearing here is that the return on capital in Asia is still tough. So either it needs a public investment or there's another lens, right? As you said, sustainability or food security or whatever else that comes in that gives it the patience that it needs. Sorry, Ines, you want to add something?
Just want to add on this. I mean, in the last one, like you mentioned about the sustainability fund, I think this is also the time that Asia really need to help Asia, because if you look at the public funding now globally, most funding is going towards Africa now. So it's really less, because the idea is Asia is rich enough now or more to.
That is true. I've been on the receiving end of that, of, why does Asia need money? Africa is the place where that is true. So you're saying Asians need to be helping Asians out and get that investment going. Yeah, right. Fair point. Yeah. I'm going to come back to a topic here, and I'm cognizant of the red light over there, basically, but I think this is an important topic. We've touched on regulatory, right? But I want to bring this conversation, and I think we all have a sense and a feeling that, Asia is an amalgamation of different regulations that have to be navigated here, right? I think the other elephant in the room is IP protection, right? And, obviously, how much, when you put in the money, how long it takes, the risk reward you talked about, you want the reward at the end, right? You don't want to be sitting here at the risk that, look, all the R&D that you did is now publicly available for everyone to use, or there are price caps on it or things like that, right? Now that's the tension on the other side with small farmers and access, food security, climate, all of that. So can I come back to you guys on certain, as to, what's, Gengchen, let's start with you, right? Obviously, I know when we chatted earlier, right, IP protection is critical. I'm sure you have IP protection at Agritech, what you do. How do you see attacking this?
I think that's in Asia, especially for the countries like 30 years ago, let's put it this way, there's not much respect on the IP issues.
IP, yeah.
That's including PVP, plant variety, Gen plus protection, and even the GMO stuff. Now, I think with the, time coming and the PVP issues, IP issues, I think most of our government people realize it's important, especially in China. China 20 years ago, no one cares about the IP. Right now, I think they become everywhere think IP is very important, especially for the biotech issue. IP issues, they'll be easier compared to the PVP to protect, because you have a very clear, marker there. Right. So I think what's coming. I think.
Do you think there's a change right now in at least in the Chinese mindset about thinking about IP?
That's right. I do think that in other countries the same thing. I used to work for Asian countries, and that time, 30 years ago,
nobody cared.
Nobody cares about that. I think right now everybody is talking about it, at least.
So Bhupen, Advanta would invest in IP creation in Asia, and is bullish about the fact that IP protection is something that's changing.
I think last 20 years, let's say PVP FRA, plant variety protection and farmer rights. I think in India, I said 2002 is Parliament enacted. From there onward, in last 20 years, the entire body of regulations has evolved a lot, significantly. Let's say, and I think I hear from China side also. So there's a very positive development is happening in this front. Also, a lot of workshops are happening for the stakeholders, sensitivity around that. So the PVP FRA organization started issuing the certificates to the varieties, etc. So that part, I think, pretty significant improvement. The area where work required to be done is the implementation part in terms of judicial system also need to be on board.
Absolutely.
If that happens, then I think situation will evolve further.
Ines, you're the other side of this debate. You know,
Yeah,
we
we realize the importance of IP for the return of investment, maybe, and also for enhanced adoption. But on the other hand, we also would like to have, actually we start to have at the early stage now discussion with the different companies for less commercial traits, for example, or a certain condition for inbreds that we could work out IP for a certain condition, certain trait, certain area, or because I think it is also very important, because at the end of the day, if the public acceptance, if it's proof for us awareness for the sustainable development is big, then public also would be more positive in it. So
I have a quick question and a quick answer from all of you. How do we balance this IP protection, very necessary for investment, which we all agree is necessary in this space, with access? Right? Any thoughts on that?
I go first?
Yeah, sure.
I think protection part is quite taken care of, but yeah, it's a fine art. How do we have a strong IP, but that should not hinder the fast spread of the technology, adoption of the technology. I think in that the technology provider must have a clear vision in terms of bringing as many ethical the player on the board with a very practical and very fair technology fees. If a technology fee level of Americas are implemented in Asia, that becomes a hindrance. They are so concerned about the IP protection, and the fees are kept at so high level. So I think it's our responsibility as a technology provider to make sure that while we strike a balance in terms of IP protection, but also adoption also has to go up. For that, Asia, all said and done, is a price-sensitive market.
Right.
Right, and therefore, if you balance these two, adoption also can be faster.
But it's a scale market also, right?
That's true.
Yeah?
That's true. You make money out of volume.
Yeah, right? So you have to
Agree.
look at it differently.
That's true.
perhaps.
That's
Ines, were you going to add something quickly?
yeah, I think for example, I mean, an old example of the golden rice humanitarian access.
Yeah.
It could be one example. Depends on the trait and depends on.
So you're saying let's go by the trait and the need for the trait for sort of the access to address this. Gengchen.
Yeah, I think this is just this two issue. Your attitude, you know, people's mindset. You're not using that. This is free. Yours, mine. It's first you need to respect the technology. They respect the IP. In terms, you know, the fees, you know, royalty. That's IP. I agree. You know, when you see the comment, you know,
Got it.
balance the point. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so I think what we're hearing
Sorry,
is that, yes.
it's not only trade. I think it's trade, and then we can also level the income of the farmer. That it was like in the condition of golden rice at that time, it's for the farmers below like $10,000 per year. Well, 10,000 is very little now, but that could be also one
Got it.
option. Thank you.
I'm going to stop here. Sorry, guys, I think we could go on, but I just want to make sure that we can get some questions in from the audience. I believe there is a mic, and if someone has a question, if they'd put their hand up. Nobody? Okay, I'm just looking to see whether there's any questions from the online audience, but I don't really see any out here either. So maybe I have 10 seconds and 11 seconds, so I should not worry about the countdown. But thank you all for all your insights. Obviously, I think it's fairly clear the panel here thinks there's a lot of immense potential here of what biotech can do for Asia. And, but on the caution side, it can't be a cookie cutter, what's worked in America works in Asia. So anyone developing IP has to think about how they balance, accessing this market with the right business model and the right price points, et cetera, to make that happen. Because, it is a large market and we have lots of problems to be addressed. Yeah. Thank you again for all our panelists, and thanks to all the audience for listening in. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
you.
very much.